Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Films Not Movies podcast with me, Aaron.
And me, Charlotte.
This week we'll be looking at a couple of new films. Get Out. I'm not telling you to get out. The film is called Get Out. And the second one is called The Love Witch. And let's get straight into it. So let's talk about Get Out.
Get Out!
Get Out is directed by Jordan Peele and stars Daniel Kaluuya and Alison Williams as Chris and Rose, respectively.
Yeah, so we saw Daniel Kaluuya in Black Mirror.
Yes, in Black Mirror. If he's been in anything else, I'm not too familiar with it, but...
And we know, well, us personally,
Not
know, but Alison Williams is in Girls. She plays Marnie.
Yeah, the TV show Girls.
Yeah.
Basically unknowns when it comes to the film world.
Yeah.
Well, they're basically the main people in this. So basic outline of the story. A young African-American man visits his Caucasian girlfriend's mysterious family estate. So, basically, Chris has reservations about visiting his girlfriend's parents while they don't know he's black, is basically the setup of the story.
Yeah, I mean, you've got enough trepidation meeting a partner's parents for the first time anyway, and then the kind of setup is he asks her, have you ever mentioned that I'm a black guy? And she says, no, but it won't be a problem.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay. And then off they go, miles away in this, a big road trip to their big old house, which is in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and they get there, and... Well, as you would kind of expect cringy parents to be they're a bit overly friendly, but he definitely feels a little bit like something isn't quite right.
Yeah,
certainly it's presented to the audience that is there an air of uncertainty or threat surrounding him being there. Because
from a racism point of view, they say a lot of the right things, but then the massive weirdness is they kind of have home help who are basically two black people.
Servants, and I like that is referenced to quite quickly. He's like, I know how it looks, white family with two black servants, and he's a bit like, yeah, man, it does look like that.
Yeah.
But it's not really about how it looks, as in, okay, you could get past that. It's the strangeness of those characters that makes you think, what are they doing to them to make them so...
they're weird.
They're weird, kind of overly friendly, but in a really detached kind of...
Like robots.
Yeah, they don't seem human kind of way. And so, that's
the setting for the film, really, and it all ensues from there. And we can't really say too much because...
No, don't want to give away any major spoilers. So, as the story progresses, you start to really get the sense of something isn't quite right here. Is it all in his head? Is he just overanalyzing?
Yeah,
a little
completely.
thing starting to spook him when they're nothing? Or is there something more sinister going on and he should be doing something about it and he's not? And you have exactly the same feeling. You almost feel like you're in his head for a lot of the film.
Completely.
Some parts in particular, you're very much in his head.
Yeah.
And that's the air that it has all the way through.
Yeah.
And it's not scary as in you're going, but it's just, you feel the tension and the threat.
Yeah,
and
the tension builds from the very beginning, even from the journey to the house, you're already on edge. It does that typical horror film thing of making you feel unsettled, kind of like ready to be freaked out at any moment. And you do completely go with him on that journey, going through what he's going through in his head, am I just overanalyzing this? Like, what is the line between that's a bit weird and oh my god, something is up now?
Yeah.
And it just spirals and escalates. Yeah, it's brilliantly done.
Yeah.
Like the tension is amazing. This film, dear listeners, made Aaron jump more than any other film we have ever seen together.
You seem so proud that a film has made me jump. I guess it's because it's normally... Though you still did jump at this bit.
I did jump, but not as much as you did. You did proper arm shaking in the air.
Yeah, it really freaked me out. To be honest, I reckon 9 out of 10 people would only be slightly freaked out by that bit. But I was just so engrossed and paying attention, and I was expecting something to jump out. But just not in the way that it did. And it was the use of music. And that's definitely something I want to talk about a bit in this film, is that, okay, that was probably a standout moment from the rest of the music where it used a very exact type of music to just really emphasise the jump scare, essentially, of that moment. I fell for that more than I normally fall for jump scares, which are normally just something in the screen.
It's not a particularly jump scary.
No, it's
not one of those, to be honest, open the cupboard.
That's probably the only one in the whole thing.
Yeah.
Not many, anyway. That was the only one that really made me jump.
It really made him jump.
Yeah. Yes, I jumped. Yeah, the director of this, Jordan Peele, he's better known as a comedian, really, and an actor. So I think this is his directorial debut, certainly his first feature-length one, and it's come out really, really well. Him himself doesn't describe it as a horror film, he describes it as a social thriller. I think that's the perfect... If you had to describe this film in 2 words, that would be it, because it is all about racism, really, but not in the way that films are normally about racism. Normally you would imagine a horror film about racism being rednecks and people being overtly in your face racist and horrible to people,
Green Room,
exactly like Green Room. And it reminds me of Green Room in a lot of ways, but this is much more the kind of middle class, institutionalized, is there something bubbling under the surface type racism, which I don't think I've ever seen in a film before, or if I have, it's not been done in a way that is so convincing. Because as you mentioned before, Girlfriend Rose's line about, of course not told them, it wouldn't matter, and you can just tell him he's a bit like, we should say something. And I think she's this kind of, I don't know if it's weird to describe her as whiter as white, but she just seems so just, princessy, exactly. And it's kind of set up that the whole family is also all a bit like that, all just, they seem really goody two-shoesy, rich, middle class. It just... Except
her mum is a hypnotherapist, and her brother is just scary freak weird.
Well, no, he's not. No, that's an awful description. He is a classic posh boy who's just allowed to do whatever he likes.
But really unpleasant.
Yeah, but he's not. He's not a weirdo. I think the fact that he's probably always had privilege his entire life means he can be as much of a idiot as he wants, and no one ever tells him off.
That type of character really horrid.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing he's dealing with. So this guy goes into that situation. It's not like his own family at all.
Yeah.
And has to deal with it. Yeah, so talking about the music again briefly, the music and some of the horror films really just reminded me of a film from a few years ago called Under the Skin, which starred Scarlett Johansson. Had a very, again, unsettling is the word I'll use, soundtrack, which got under your skin, and it was called Under the Skin, and it just made you feel a bit uncomfortable, even if nothing particularly freaky was happening. And then the horror scenes in that basically surround a character completely in darkness and kind of give that sense of they're just not in their own head anymore. And this film uses very similar type scenes very effectively. I wonder if Jordan Peele had seen that film beforehand, because there's some scene I actually had to look up who it was made by afterwards to see if it was made by Jonathan Glazer as well, because it felt that similar. The rest of the film isn't that similar, but those scenes in particular really reminded me of that.
Weren't really like either a horror or a social thriller, really. Those scenes were almost more sci-fi or fantasy or just completely different. And that's what I really liked about this film. It was a complete genre bonder, in that it didn't, it didn't really follow... Sure, it had a few kind of tropes of the horror film and had comedy in there, and it had drama elements in there, and, is this a bit rom-com-y at points? Then these kind of more unusual bits that you didn't see coming, Sinister. And twists that you don't see coming. And I just found it really refreshing, really brilliant, really great perspective to be sort of, well, not great, but I'm glad someone's made a film that's made me feel sort of on the receiving end of potential racism kind of thing.
Yeah,
to kind of go be in that person's shoes, which you don't often get in a decent way.
Not in a way that doesn't seem really exploitative of a situation that someone is in, or just as I was saying before, just really in your face, obvious racism. It just definitely gives that sense of feeling like you stand out and is this going to be a problem for me? Yeah,
and just conversations that are not where you're being out and out abused, but you just feel super uncomfortable, like properly like get me out of here sort of situation. And I think that is helped so much by the performance, particularly of Daniel Kaluuya as Chris. And particularly the performance of Daniel Kaluuya, if I'm saying that right, really helps embody that sense of feeling threatened and like you're standing out. I think his performance in particular is one of the strongest parts of this film. Yep, definitely. And I think humour is used pretty well to kind of help break that tension every now and again, and kind of have that sort of, it's all right for a bit, which gives it a bit more dynamic. And
Yeah. It just, gives you a chance to breathe, but it isn't for very long, because every time you think, oh, no, everything's okay, it's just like, oh, no, was that done in a weird reason? So it's a really interesting film. It takes turns that you're not expecting, which I think is really good, and goes places, you just wouldn't quite expect.
Yep.
It's an interesting one, and I think it's really good, but it's hard for us to talk about in great detail.
Yeah, just go and see it because it's really good.
Yeah, I'm half tempted to say that maybe not after this one, we'll potentially do a spoiler special on this one.
Yeah, spoiler special, maybe.
Give people a chance to see it, because I feel like there's a lot to talk about that we can't mention without ruining it. And we're not here to ruin films. So, have you got any other talking points?
Not really.
Great. So let's...
Scores on the doors?
Scores on the doors. I'm giving it 4 stars. I think this is really, really strong piece of work. I think we've chosen a great year to start doing this podcast. Loads of good films and loads of diverse films. This is really different to anything I've seen.
Yeah.
Describing it to a horror film, even compared to what else horror films have we described recently? I suppose Green Room. It's got some similarities, but I couldn't even put those two films in the same genre, despite them both being tense and uncomfortable and set around race. But that just shows the different ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Compare it again to something like The Witch, which we watched on Blu-ray a few weeks ago. Completely different again, so it shows the quality of the stuff that's out there. So, really solid 4 stars. Definitely well recommended from me.
Yep, I'm also going to give it 4 stars. I loved it, thought it was really unusual, and just enjoyed it all the way through, and it surprised me, and I thought it was fantastic.
Especially in our modern times, I think it's hit the cinemas around the time which I feel like it will have more impact, and this wasn't done in a cynical way because the film will have already been made, but a great cinema watch, especially because you might get the person you're with jumping out the skin like I did.
Yep.
Great. Oh yes, and Get Out is in cinemas now, so you should still be able to catch it on the big screen.
Yep.
Second film we're going to talk about is The Love Witch, which is written and directed by Anna Biller and stars primarily Samantha Robinson as Elaine and other people.
It's all about her.
It is all about her.
The Love Witch.
Now, this is an interesting film because this is also out of the cinema now, but is available on DVD and digital download. So that's where we watched it. So a great little... Probably isn't going to be in the cinema for that long, which may be why they've done this way. So it's available straight away, which I think is a great way.
Yeah. Also, top tip, if you're going to rent it, get it from the PlayStation, not from Sky, if you have access to both of those things.
If you've got PlayStation Store, it's on there, and it's £2 cheaper than on Sky Store. Sky Ones are about $5.50 at the moment. Ludicrously expensive. Anyway, that was a bit of a side. So I've got a little bit of a blurb for this film, which is... A witch uses spells and magic to get men to fall in love with her. Now, I've made that short and ambiguous as possible because I would imagine that would be something that would be on an old school style poster for this film.
Yeah, and if you have seen the posters, they look completely like something from another decade. Yeah. From the 60s, if not 50s. Yeah,
60s kind of. Can't think of another film that fits into this category, but they would normally describe it as sexploitation film. That would be the term. So I can't think of any off the top of my head that fit that category, but if you saw the poster, you'd think it straight away of these maybe not old horror films, but old kind of
super retro.
Well, they wouldn't have been retro at the time.
But they look it now.
But they certainly look it now, and it's very purposefully done in that way.
Yeah. So the premise is the main character, Elaine, has had some turbulence in her past, and she moves to a new city to kind of get away and start a new life and also look for a man. And she's beautiful, and she has the most immaculate eyeliner I've ever seen and the greatest collection of coloured eyeshadows, which somehow all suit her. I don't know how she's managed to do that. And you follow her on her adventures, really, as she kind of lures various men into her web, I suppose, and almost chews them up and spits them out. But that sounds a lot more ruthless. But she is a ruthless character, but she's also all about love. So she's kind of ruthlessly trying to love everybody. Well, and it kind of all goes a bit wrong because she's using spells and it's not the way to do it. And
I don't think she really thinks it's all about love. I think she that's how she gets away with her
Really?
fantasy world of...
But I think she's fully in that fantasy world and she believes it.
I think that's just the facade that she puts on, that she's all about love and nothing ever seems to last, and it's because she doesn't want it to last. She wants to basically take all the power from a man in any situation, whether they're someone who is asserting power or not, and for her to completely take control of the situation, control over them, so that they are basically her puppet.
Yeah.
And then once she's completely in control, just drops them like a stone, which I think is a really interesting way of putting a film like this, because when it first starts, I thought, oh God, Charlotte's not going to like this, because she says a lot of things which are very not feminist, very kind of Stepford wife kind of, you've got to please your man to make him love you and all this type of stuff. But that isn't who she is at all. She's kind of the ultimate feminist from my point of view, because she just takes complete control over every situation and is completely unapologetic about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I would say that makes her the ultimate feminist, but I know what you mean in terms of powerful, empowered versus doormat.
But when she is projecting this doormat persona to the outside world, and then what she is in reality is quite different, I think that's a really interesting...
Yeah, and it's interesting your take on the character, really, because I'm not sure I see her as... I think she kind of does believe that is what she's going for. I think she's just a bit messed up and going about it the wrong way. But that's interesting that we kind of have different takes on that.
No, yeah.
Let's talk about the look of this for a bit, because you can't talk about this film without talking about the fact that it completely looks as if it was set in the early 60s. Like, it's filmed in Technicolor. All of the outfits are straight out of that decade. The hair, the makeup, absolutely everything, apart from a couple of tiny details every now and again, which firmly place it in more or less current times.
This was something that we talked about straight after the film, was because I noticed quite early on that there was a really modern BMW being driven.
We kind of turned to each other when we saw that. And we were like, huh?
Well, no, but this is what I'm saying, is that straight away I was like, this is interesting. So it's actually set now. It's almost like she's living in the past. And you were like, no, I think it is just set in the past. I was like, this film is far too precise with all the details of every set, every little potion bottle, as she is a witch, is so perfectly placed. There's no way they were just going to have a character drive in a really modern car and it just meant to ignore it.
I know, but it's so weird.
I think it's so humorously done, because at the end, and this isn't a spoiler, at one point she just takes a modern mobile phone out of her pocket and starts texting, and that's when you know 100% for sure, they are definitely doing this on purpose. Why have they made this choice? I don't care why, because it's hilarious.
Because apart from making you go, what? Like, the mobile phone and the car are not important at all. Like, every other vehicle is perfectly of its time. It's the only mobile phone you ever see. You don't see any other modern technology at all. No modern TVs or modern anything. It's just like, they're just thrown in there just to kind of make you laugh, really. I don't know, I find myself laughing a lot throughout this film. I thought it was fantastic. It's, in terms of look, it's very much reminiscent of those kind of old TV shows like Bewitched and I Dream of Jeannie, where it's all about, this female character, and a lot of the other kind of side characters that you encounter are super familiar from those kind of shows. You've kind of got the more homely housewife, neighbourly friend that pops in and has a chat and kind of wants advice on things, and then you've got the dupish, slightly dumb husband who's a bit hopeless, and then you've got the like daring do officer kind of guy, and
chiseled jawline.
And you know all of these characters, there's no surprises there. But I don't think you really have encountered a character like Elaine before. I think she's one of a kind, really. And completely self-serving and out to look after herself, and really nobody else. Like, absolutely ruthless, no morals, seemingly in some ways, but you still kind of love her.
Yeah, I think her character is fascinating in this, and I'd love to know what the director was trying, what their intention was with this film and her performance, because it's so many things that she does are so funny, and if you didn't get into this film, you might just think the acting is terrible.
Yeah.
And that everything about it is like a pastiche, like just naff. But if you buy into it, it seems like it's a knowing look, but it's not done in a way which is like, okay, yeah, we know we're being really stupid here.
It's not like Austin Powers.
No,
you know?
it's nothing, not at all. It's right on the line of, is this serious or is it not? And you find yourself wavering all the way through, thinking, oh no, this is a serious film, and then thinking, oh no, this really isn't, because there are some utterly bizarre scenes which I'm sure are thrown in just to throw you off what you're thinking about it. Certain scene where there's kind of like a Renaissance fair just seems to pop up for no reason, and they just all go along with it. It's outrageous.
I personally love the Victorian tea room where she busts out this massive pink wobbly hat. It's just like, it's insane, but awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just really funny. And yeah, the delivery of the lines is almost like something from those sitcoms where the pauses are just a little bit too long between the lines. And it's like, I'll say my line. Now I'll say my line.
Yeah.
But it's brilliant. I love the way they've done it. Obviously, there is a fair bit of sex going on, but it's not porny kind of sex. It's like, I didn't think that was overdone at all.
No, even though it probably is more graphic, if that's the word, I don't know, than you would normally expect from any film. The way it's done is very, I was going to say almost sitcom-y kind of.
Yeah, and a lot of it's got a sort of trippy, you know, kaleidoscopy vibe going on as well.
Yeah, because it all usually goes hand in hand with some kind of witch's broth or...
Yep, she definitely loves to bubble up a potion. There's some really amazing scenes with these Technicolor chemistry sets and more dry ice than you've ever seen in your life, all kind of bubbling out of these glass bottles and stuff.
Beakers, conical flasks.
Yeah, all of that. One thing I wanted to ask your opinion on, actually, Aaron, was that this film definitely portrays a lot of the men as kind of bumbling fool types, and obviously she's positioned as the one who's in control, using her powers of sexuality and the bubbling potions combined, but you're kind of laughing at the men a lot of the time and you know, it's funny, and I enjoyed it, and I thought it was quite refreshing, even though that's not my view of men. It's kind of interesting to see it spun around that way. But what did that make you feel?
That didn't bother me at all, to be honest. I thought each of them, okay, they had bumbling, pathetic qualities to them, but that was normally after they were under the influence of one of these love potions. The three main men that you come across, the man she meets in the park, the husband who's sweet and loyal, and then the policeman who is a bit more, it does have his head a bit more screwed on, is a bit more resistant to her charms. So yeah, I think they are no issues with that at all.
I just thought it was like an interesting portrayal of men in
this
film.
Well, I don't think it was quite as negative as you make it out, because I think the three men are all kind of have their own thing about them first before they kind of get put under the influence of something that makes them out of control of themselves. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of thought they were pretty stupid all the way through, really. And then just got reduced to gibbering Rex after she'd been involved. But when I kind of read the premise of this film, which is that she kind of meets three men, and it's kind of like these films always come in threes, don't they? These kind of formulas of that one doesn't work, that's the one kind of thing. I thought that was going to be really drawn out and repetitive, but they cut a lot of it so that it moved quite quickly. And I thought that was good, because I was worried that was going to be a bit, and now she meets the next man.
Do you think, because I thought the main negative of this film was that it was very overlong.
Really?
Yeah, probably 40 minutes too long.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a lot of great stuff in there. Maybe not 40 minutes, probably a little bit harsh, but you could probably lose a huge chunk of half an hour and the film would still have a better impact because of it. But I kind of got on board with it anyway because of I thought it was overlong, because it did feel so indulgent with the Technicolor and the stylization that was all part of it. What I call the Wolf of Wall Street effect, really, is that part of the reason why that film is so overly long is that to show the kind of indulgence of that era and the character. This kind of felt that for me as well, so I don't feel like it really rollicked along at any kind of pace, but didn't suffer too much because of it.
I really enjoyed some of the discussions that were in it initially between the two main female characters, Elaine and the kind of neighbour who shows her to the house that she's letting out. That conversation where you initially were like, she's like Elaine saying, you need to please men, you need to do this, and the housewife is saying, well, I think he just loves me for me. And then at the end of the film, Elaine is saying, I want someone to love me for me, and she's almost come around to that. And I also really loved the end. And I also found it quite, I don't know what the right word is here, but not good, but interesting how many female bodily fluids you see in this film, and it's kind of done completely unabashedly.
That was one part around that was when we were really laughing.
Howling with laughter.
Done in a very amusing way.
Yeah, just brilliant. It's kind of not afraid of things like that at all, but nothing is like gross out either, even though it is sort of going into that territory a little bit. I just really, really loved it. I loved the end. You almost could have imagined that it would end and then everybody all starts doing the mashed potato or something over the end credits. I can imagine that. But that didn't happen, sadly.
Great. So what do you think?
I loved it and I'm going to give it a 4.
Wow.
Because it was completely different. Really tickled me. Just in that sort of, I think it's going to be a cult classic sort of a film.
Yeah. I think that's definitely what it's going for. It's trying to position itself as a cult classic, and I think it will succeed to a certain degree. Certainly a certain audience, I imagine, will absolutely worship this film. It'll definitely tick the boxes for probably a lot of young alternative girls/women, essentially. Yeah. I think it'll feel like...
You may have dabbled in Wicca.
Yeah, it'll seem like the perfect film for them, and I enjoyed it thoroughly. I'm going to give it 3. I think there was a few issues with it, and I don't think everything it tried to do quite hit the mark, but still very enjoyable. And part of the reason I'm a bit more cautious with the score, giving it 3, is that I think some people will watch this and absolutely hate every single second of it and will think it's the biggest pile of trash in the world.
They are wrong.
People who absolutely love it, and then people like me who just think there's a lot of good stuff here and it's very enjoyable.
Yeah. I also kind of loved the genre blending of this, really. I have no idea what this is classified as. Some bits are horror, some bits are comedy. Again, a bit like Get Out. I like that element of it where you don't really know what territory you're in, but you just enjoy it all the same.
Yeah, so that's the Films Not Movies podcast for this week. Thank you very much for listening. Please get in touch if you've got any suggestions for films.
And do tune in next time because we're going to be doing a Ben Wheatley special.
Yes.
We were lucky enough to go and see a preview screening of
Free Fire.
Free Fire, the name of the film that I can never remember. And we're going to be talking about lots of his other films as well.
Yes. So, look out for that soon. Thanks very much for listening.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.